This tutorial is to create a very loose replication of Pissarro's The Hermitage. I'm going to try to be loose and fresh with the paints. I don't want to do a ton of detail. There is a lot of detail in this painting. It is just so beautiful, but I'm going to try to keep it loose. We will see if I succeed. I've got some cobalt blue here mixed up that I'm going to use for the sky, and I'm going to use a paper towel to dab up some of the white areas for the clouds. But I'm going to wet it first and wet the entire sky area, even where I want the clouds to be. And I'm going to wet through this bunch of trees right there because there are some blue spots coming through the leaves. Kind of turn it sideways to see if no, I didn't. There's some spots that I didn't get. I'll always angle it to see if you have any dry spots, because if it's not shiny, you have missed some paper. Okay, now let's start dropping in the cobalt blue. I'm going to try to avoid some of the areas where I think the clouds should be. To dab a little here and there for the clouds. Kind of soften the edges. The clouds are not going to look exactly the same as the reference photo, and that's okay. Just fiddling here. Any minute I need to stop fiddling. I'm just taking up some of the pigment here, some of the paint at the bottom of the clouds. And lifting up a little here towards the top where it would be brighter. And I'm going to let that dry before I do anything more. I kind of like that. Okay, so let's let this dry. I've mixed up some yellow ochre with a little bit of, let's see, what is it? Permanent violet, which is just a purple. And I'm going to do the road here and some of the sides of the houses with this mixture here. Oops. And there's some of this color up here as well by the trees. There's some dirt here. Looks like a bank there. I'll worry about the darks for this later. I'm going to take a damp brush and just kind of smooth the edges. So just let it kind of spread. We're going to be adding lots of green. Okay, let's Let's do the road here. I need a wetter brush here. There we go. Just doing some of the sides of the houses. Not being too perfect here, not wanting to be. I want this to be pretty loose. We've got some dirt up here, got some over here. Let's drop in some up here. Let's see, I think that's good for now. So we need to let this dry. Okay, I've got a couple of greens here mixed. This is sap green, and this darker green is sap green mixed with some permanent violet, some purple, to give it a pretty intense darker green. You could use shadow green. You could use a good dark green is Payne's gray with any yellow, like Quin gold or lemon yellow. It makes a very, very dark green. So I'm just going to go over here where the grass is, right here, and then immediately drop in some of the dark up here, and then I'm going to do the same over here, is just go over it with the sap green and drop in some of the darker. Now obviously the colors I have mixed here are a lot brighter than that, but that's what I'm trying to do. I'm not trying to replicate this exactly. I'm just putting my own spin to it. Don't paint over these two little kids sitting here on the grass. Oh, while this is still wet, it's very wet, I'm gonna get some of this darker green and just kind of drop it in up here. This is like a stone wall that has, looks like a bush or something in front of it. I'm gonna put a little along in here, just wherever I see some of the dark areas. I'll just let it blend. Really will look really cool. You can also, I'm going to do a little splattering with just plain water. That will give it some texture. See, immediately it gives it texture. that's the magic of watercolor, so we ought to be using that. It's so pretty. Okay, let's go over to this area. And I've got a lot on my brush here. Didn't mean to bring over that much. Oops, went into the road there, the path. Didn't mean to do that. Went over the little boy's head. Trying to work quickly. And leaving some gaps. Drop in some of this dark right along in here, and there's a lot of dark right here. These are some, oh, I dropped in a lot there. That's okay. This is kind of a shadowy area over here. I'm gonna lift up some of that. That's a little too much. This is kind of a shadowy area. Some speckled light, and there's a lot of dark up in here. This is very dark. I'm going to smooth this here. I don't want that. There we go. It still has a little bit of that yellow ochre coming through, but I don't want it all that stark. There we go. Lifting. Just lift it up so that you can get back to that yellow ochre. Really dark over here on this right side, but I think my paper is getting a little too dry and I need to step away before I fiddle with it much more. Kind of the edge of the path here, make it a little darker. Okay, now to do a little splattering. Oops. Just to give it that watercolor look. Why not? That looks so cool. Okay, let's let this dry. Okay, I'm gonna paint the green area back in here, making sure to do negative painting around the roofs here. Using the same color mixture. With the sap green, I did add just a little bit of the permanent violet to darken it some and make it a little less like in your face, kind of too bright. That's the bushes in the horizon line back there. I'm gonna put some of this darker down in here because it was very dark by these houses. And then I'm going to take a damp brush and just kind of go over where the yellow ochre was, just to leave it a little bit lighter there. Drop in some of this dark right here at the bottom and right around the edge of that house. I'm just kind of dabbing around. Take a damp brush and kind of go over where that yellow ochre is. Just let some of it seep through. Got some of this dark. It's very dark around here. And it's dark up in here. I'm just dabbing where I see the dark values. I had some more dark value over here. This is almost dry. Then I'm going to take a damp brush and just kind of smooth that out just a little. Try to leave some of that blue coming through. That's hard for me to do. I just end up covering up everything. This is still too wet for me to deal with, so I'm not going to mess with that. But I really like how this looks. It's got really dark by the house. I see it lighter out there in the distance, I'm just lifting and wiping. Not a whole lot, just here and there. Okay, let's let that dry. While it's still wet, I'm dabbing up because I think it got a little too dark here. I want to make sure there's some highlights here. So I'm just dabbing, just barely touching. It also gives it more texture. Okay, I think that's better. Okay, I think this is dry enough for me to do some of the roofs. And I've mixed some burnt sienna with some of the cobalt blue to get kind of a reddish tint. Oh, I do have some of this, this is Pyrrole Red that I used for something else. Not a whole lot in there, just a little. So I'm just going to start working on the roofs here. And while it's still wet, I'm just going to dab in some cobalt blue every now and then just to give it some interesting texture. A little bit of the blue. Let's dab some blue in there. Little blue. Little blue here too. I'm going to leave a little line of white above this one, if I can, just to separate it from the rest of the buildings behind it. Some blue here. Let's see, what other roofs do I have? Again, I'm going to leave a little little white line to separate those buildings. I could have used masking fluid, but I don't want to fiddle with that. I'll just take my chances. A little bit of blue. See what interesting texture it makes for the roofs. I think I've got too much pigment over here, so I'm gonna lift some up. I don't want to mess with it too much because I want it to blend on paper. See, that looks really cool. The granulation really looks awesome. Okay, let's let this dry. This side of the buildings are in the shade, are in the shadow, so I'm going to use it's a mixture of burnt sienna, cobalt blue. It kind of makes a grayish color. I've kind of got two of them here. And I'm just going to do a wash over the entire side of the building. I think that's some kind of fence there, some kind of wall. Do the little chimneys. I said I was going to be really loose here. I'm really trying. Do a little shadow along the side here. Leave these little bits of white because that will separate the roof from the rest of the buildings. Okay, I'm going to drop in a little bit of blue here and there. Ooh, that's a lot of blue. I didn't want that much, so I'm just going to dab some of that up. And mix it with this mixture here so that it's not this bright blue. That's better. Just kind of drop it in places. Gives it some texture. Let's let that dry. I'm going to cover this part and I'm going to do some little splattering here on this grass in the foreground. Just a little here and there. got one that popped up way over there, so I just dabbed it off. And I'm going to kind of splatter in some water too. It'll hit some of those drops and kind of dissipate the pigment. Touch one if you want to. Okay, I think that will add what we need in the foreground there. Maybe I'll add some more splatters. Okay, I think that will give me what I want. And let that dry. Okay, I'm looking at these dark green areas up here. So I've got my sap green mixed with a little bit of purple, and I added a little bit of Payne's gray to make it really pretty dark. So I'm just going to kind of do some negative painting here and then smooth the edges just to give it more definition of the type of bushes and trees back there. And then damp brush, smooth that out. And then there was some over here. Just kind of look at your reference photo and just kind of put it where you think it needs to be. Damp brush. It's really dark by the houses here. It's a damp brush. I'm gonna drop in some of this other green, which is the sap green, mixed with a little bit of the purple, not a lot of the purple. Damp brush. There's some grass or something growing kind of by this roof here. And it's pretty dark in that corner, so I'm just going to drop in some of this really dark. Need some more of that dark mix, so I'm going to take some of my sap green here and then add some Payne's gray to it, and then I've got my dark green. brush. There's some dark up here. Got my damp brush here. Okay, where else do I need to do this? I need to do a lot over here. Trying to keep the light coming through the trees. I'll take a damp brush and just kind of let this go where it wants to go. Just don't cover up the blue spots. Okay, the rest of this is pretty dark down in here, so I'm just going to add some leaves, this dark. Just dab it in. Take a damp brush and just kind of smoosh it around, give it a place to move, but still leaving some of the lighter to come through. Okay, I need some more of that dark. So I've got my sap green over here, and then add some Payne's gray. That's really dark. Okay, what do we got? Oh, we've got really dark areas coming with these trees right here. So I'm just kind of squiggling. That's an official watercolor term that I just made up. Now I've done my squiggle, I'm going to kind of touch the top of these squiggles and let it blend. This is just a damp brush. Just dropping in some of this really dark right along the bottom, letting it's got a place to move to because I put water up there. So it just needs to find its way. We've got lots of shadows over here. So I'm just gonna kind of start working on the shadows in the grass, leaving some of the green underneath. I'll do the shadow in the road later. The shadow in the road won't be green, it'll be the darker color of that. I think a lot of people make their mistakes in shadows that way. I used to. Okay, here's some shadow here. shadow over here on this embankment thing. Damp brush. Let's do a damp brush over here. Okay, I'm going to add some more dark. There's a lot of dark over here. So I'm just dabbing in some of this dark pigment. And then I'm going to take a damp brush and just kind of smoosh it around. And drop in some more of the dark. This isn't quite dry, but that's okay. I just want it to kind of blend and do what it wants to do. Damp brush, smooshing. And I've almost lost all my whites or all the blue coming through the trees. That is what I'm famous for. This is just some sap green. Damp brush, more smooshing. Okay, I think I need to walk away and let this dry. Okay, I've got some burnt sienna and some cobalt blue here, kind of leaning towards the brownish side. So I'm going to go over all these areas that are hit by the sun. I think that that yellow ochre is just too bright. So I'm just going to tone it down some. And I'm just going to go over the whole house, all the buildings with this color. Go over the roof there. Yeah, I think that looks better. It was just too bright. Okay, while I have this color, this would be a good color for the shadows on the road, the little pathway. This is pretty dark right here. That's that roof of the building next to this one. So we need to make sure it looks like it's more in the shadows, so that one stands out. Lift up some of that paint. I put too much. I think I wanted that one to be a little brighter. So I'm just picking it up. That's good. I think this is good. Okay, we're gonna let this dry. Okay, I'm gonna start adding some of the tree trunks and branches in here. Just looking at the reference photo, this brush is a Escoda Perla size 10 round, but it has a pretty good point. You can make a pretty fine line with it. You also can make a very thick line. So I'm just going to add some of the tree trunks and the branches. Just looking at where you've got some gaps in your tree and try to put some branches. That was a little too thick. Dab up what you don't like. I'm just dabbing in some neutral tint mixed with the sap green, just to give it more texture here. Because it was pretty dark in that area. Now I'm going to take a damp brush and just kind of smush it, let it kind of go where it wants to go after it's smushed. Just to bring these trees closer to us here, because they are closer. Use some of this brown too, just dropping it in. It's there, why not use it? Okay, I'm going to use some neutral tint and make this brown even darker for the windows. I think that's probably good enough. This looks like it's a little gate. We're not going to be perfect here. We're just going to suggest the windows. I'm going to dab this up to give it kind of a, there we go, that's what I'm looking for. So it's not just so dark. Shadow here and there. I'm taking a damp brush and smoothing it just a tad. Dab those windows and doors, make them kind of mottled looking. This would have a shadow. Damp brush. Okay, let's work on these people. I'm going to be very suggestive. I'm not going to be, there's not going to be a lot of detail. So I'm looking at the reference photo. It looks like this lady is wearing like a vest. And then she's wearing, looks like a blue skirt, which I use cobalt blue, trying to use some color harmony here, not introduce a whole bunch of new colors because it would really stick out. So that's cobalt blue mixed with a little burnt sienna. And the lady next to her has kind of a white blouse, it looks like. So I'm going to use very, very light, whatever this mixture is, which is burnt sienna and neutral tint, and I think a little cobalt blue. I already forgot what was in there. Gonna do her skirt, a little shadow here. I think it's a little girl here. Not doing a lot of details because we don't need it. We'll be able to figure out that these are people walking. Got a little boy sitting over here. One right here. Use some neutral tint here for the hair, just to the original painting has a little parasol there, a little umbrella thingy, which this one will not have. Some shadow here from the folds in the skirt. We'll do some lifting here to help with the folds of the fabric. Okay, that needed that. It needed that dark because it's really dark in the painting. And I wanted it to be really dark. So just let this dry. Okay, I think this needs to be pushed back a little further. And I'm going to do that by doing a wash of a very light watery mix of permanent violet. So when you do violet over purple over green, it doesn't make it purple, it makes it a darker green. So that's what I'm going to do. Let me mix up some more. And it needs to be really light. You don't want it purple. Add some more water in here. Just a very, very watery wash just to push that back. And I'm using a very soft brush here. This is a Pissarro, really nice brushes, and they're really pretty cheap. You want to use the softest brush you have whenever you're doing a glaze over something, because you don't want to disturb the layer beneath. You want it to stay put. You just want to do a light wash over it. Because this will push this back. We're adding a very cool purple, and that will push it back, which is what we want it to do. Oops, I went into the sky. See how that's pushing all this back? It's toning it down. I'm going to put a little bit over here. That's way too much. Let me just dab that around. Okay, let's let that dry. I'm going to add some more dark values over here, just to show that they've got some ivy or some kind of greenery growing on that wall. So I'm just doing some squiggles, and then I'm going to just kind of smoosh it with a damp brush. Just to give some variation over here. And I'm going to drop in some darks. Kind of smooth that edge there. Yeah, that's better. It needed to be a little darker over there. Losing my voice. Okay, let's let this completely dry, and then I will do some lifting to bring some highlights back. This is still pretty wet. I'll add a little bit more detail to the people, but not much. I think if you look at it from across the room, it does look like people, and that's what we're going for. Okay, so I'm going to use this Silver Silk 88 chisel blender to lift some highlights. I'm going to do a little bit for the smoke here, outline the rooftops in some areas just to give it a little bit more definition of the white, the light hitting it. I'm going to, oops, I got this wet here. I'm going to do a little bit for the people to highlight around them. I'm going to lift some in the trees just to bring back some highlights, especially along in here. That was my plan all along. I might mess around up here and do some highlights. I don't know yet. Sometimes I just go nuts with this. So you get any kind of flat brush, a flat brush that's designed for acrylic paint. Is really a lot better than one for watercolor because it's stiffer. It's not going to be like trying to lift with a wet noodle. So let me start here. And it's damp, and I'm just going back and forth for just very briefly. And you see, I got my highlight back. I'll do a little bit more here. Not much. There was some up here. I'm going to do a little down the side of this roof because it just kind of blended in with the background. A little bit right here. This fence had a little highlight on the top, and it kind of went around. Let's see what else. I was going to do a little highlight on the side of this chimney, and I'm just going to do a little squishy little bit for the smoke. There we go. Looks like smoke. And a little bit for the top of this chimney. I'm just using this side tip of it to do this little chimney piece because it would be too big. Coming down the side of this roof. It doesn't take much to lift. This chimney here. That roof. Let's see, we need some over here. Wherever you're painting, wherever you think it needs it. Let's see what we need. I lost my white going down here. I tried to keep it. That's okay. That's what these brushes are good for. Let's see what else. I'm just looking at the original and seeing what needs to happen. I think I will add a little bit in the window here, just a little. Lifting just barely anything. Okay, the bottom of this window had a highlight. Let's see. Okay, I think that's enough for the buildings. I think that looks okay. I'll do a little bit over here because this is a stone wall. I'm just kind of adding some texture, just kind of shaking my brush there. And the same here, just, okay. Let's work on these trees here. I'm just going to use the very tip of this, the very side edge of this, and then just drop in every now and then and rub it just a little, just enough to bring some highlights back. Because I got really dark in there. Okay, I like how that worked out. You see, it doesn't take much. You can lift a lot with this. Okay, for this tree up here, that looks like I lost my chimney up there. I just got it back. Okay, I'm just going to get some highlights back up here. I think I'm pretty much done with the trees up there. Okay, so for the people, I'm I'm just going to do a little lifting for some highlights in the clothing. I'm going to try to see if I can put that umbrella back in there. And this little kid here, little girl, had a pretty white dress on. So see if I can give that back. Do a couple of highlights on these two kids sitting over here for their arms. Not sure they look like little kids. Okay, let's put some hair back on this one. I'm gonna still try to do that umbrella. Okay, I need a pointy brush here. I'm just going back and forth. Okay, that's about the most I can do about that umbrella. Okay, I'm going to let this dry and then come back and see if I'm okay with it stopping. Okay, I'm going to try to do the edge of that parasol that she's carrying. I've got a tiny brush here somewhere. And if I can do a little bit of an edge, a little shadow around the brim, it should look like, should read more like a parasol. Okay, I think that's a little bit better. Okay, I'm fiddling. I'm not being loose. Somebody stop me, slap me, tell me to walk away. Okay, I am calling this one done. I still will come back to it tomorrow with fresh eyes and see what I think then. I like the texture here with the splatters. I like the shadow over here. I like having a little bit of light coming through here. Let's see, I love this cluster of buildings over here. It looks so pretty. I love the texture of the roofs, really pretty. Okay, we'll look at it tomorrow. I'm calling this done. I've stepped away from it for a while. I'm back and I think that it is done. I think the lifting right there for the parasol, I think that kind of works. It kind of looks like a parasol or a funny looking hat. I'm not sure which one. But of course it's never finished unless there's a mat. It really makes a huge difference right there. I hope this was enjoyable to you. I hope you had fun. I hope you did one of these. I did not do this as loose as I wanted. I'm really trying. To me, this is loose. That's pretty sad. I'm really trying to be more loose at these things. But thank you so much. And thank you again for being a subscriber. That really means a lot to me. I hope you're getting value out of it. Thank you.